So the first thing that I did was head to my local hobbycraft to pick up some of the supplies that I was going to need. And for this first one, I got a little bit carried away. I was just grabbing all of these different things. They had a bunch of wreath making supplies, and I wanted to go for more of like a natural vibe for this first one. This one is actually for myself. Yes, I said they were gifts, and they are. This one just happens to be for me. And I wanted it to have a little kind of scene in the center of a wreath and some kind of really natural, you'll see, we'll get there. So I picked up some moss, some kind of mini toadstools, some cinnamon sticks, some dried orange peel, also a wreath hanger, which I definitely needed. And I grabbed some of these berries. I think they're cranberries. That's what they look like to me. And then I also headed into the 99p store and I picked up some other bits. So I got some snow spray, some deer tree ornaments, I got some bottle brush trees, and some poinsettias. So the only other thing that I brought in that wasn't from my shopping, I brought in some twine, which I'm using here to create kind of a base to build upon just in that bottom section of my wreath. And I also brought in some hot glue, my hot glue gun, and what was the other thing? Ribbon. So I had some ribbon from my stash that I also brought in to use. So I started off with the moss, and I've got everything sped up here just so I can show you kind of a quick overview of each of these wreaths and how they come together. This particular one took me about 50 minutes to make, and it was kind of the easiest, I think, because the frame is already set up and I'm just kind of building a scene and adding some bits around the outside. So I went ahead and did that first of all with the moss, and you can see how that twine just kind of gives me something to stick the moss to and something to build on so I can create my little forest scene. I will stop saying the word scene very shortly. So I was considering wrapping this ribbon around the wreath form, and then I decided against it. I ended up just using it to hang the wreath and also as a little decorative element around that hanging piece. And then I brought in all of the different things that I'd bought so I could have some fun with kind of playing around with each of the pieces and seeing where they would sit. So I think for this wreath, the technique was definitely very much just kind of put and stick. So I picked up a lot of things that were ready-made and you could just go ahead and glue them in place and call it a day. You could probably finish up this wreath a lot quicker than I did. I think a lot of the time was kind of spent just enjoying it and having fun with it and figuring out where each of the pieces would go. I decided to wrap some twine around each of the cinnamon sticks because I liked the way it looked, and if any of that twine pokes through my mossy areas, it will kind of just add some kind of consistency with that. So as I was sticking things down, I tried to work in odd numbers. I added the poinsettia flower or poinsettia flower, and then I also added some of those berries just so I had that red in a couple of places so it wasn't so kind of stark just in that one spot. So here I've got the deers. These are originally tree ornaments, so they're supposed to hang. I just cut away the ribbon pieces that you're supposed to hang them from and then pressed them into place and added some glue underneath their feet and also glued them together just to add a little bit more stability. I think these look so sweet. I had hoped to get slightly more natural looking deer for this piece. However, I nearly said scene again, did you catch me? However, I couldn't find any that would fit inside of the frame, and I think these ones are really cute anyway, and because of the whiteness to them and because of the snow on the bottle brush tree, that's actually what inspired me to get the snow spray, which is something I have not used since I was a kid and I was decorating like a Christmas window in my bedroom, so that was fun to kind of play with that as well. So here I've got the ribbon. This is a really interesting kind of like a mesh open ribbon, and I just tied a bow, cut off the excess and glued that down, and then I used that same ribbon to go ahead and add a loop so I can hang this frame. I just kind of worked some of the thread in between the weave of this piece and kind of stuck that down. So as I say, I worked kind of in threes for this for an added design element, and I think everything just looks better in kind of odd numbers, so threes or ones. I went a bit overboard with the orange, I think. However, I really like how this turned out. I pulled some more of the berries and added those in the center of the poinsettia, and then just used a paintbrush to brush away any of that excess snow where it got a little bit carried away. So that is project one. I think it was a success, and it took me about 50 minutes to pull this together. So you can let me know in the comments what you think of this one, and we'll jump into wreath number 2. So for this one, I'm using a wreath form. I went around the whole wreath adding some cable ties, that's not the right word. Pipe cleaners. Wow, that took a minute. So I went around the whole thing adding pipe cleaners, and then I have 3 pieces of deco mesh or 3 rolls of deco mesh, and I cut some consistent pieces so they were all the same size across all 3 colors. And then I'm just going to work my way around the wreath, opening up I keep wanting to say cable tie, opening up the pipe cleaner, pressing the deco mesh in there, and just twisting it in place. So I think this is a pretty common way to make a wreath. I've certainly seen a lot of tutorials on YouTube as to how to do this. I had never tried it before, and I personally think this one came out the best. It definitely took the longest. I could have stopped a little bit earlier than I did, but I got a bit carried away, and I really enjoyed it. So this one I actually made for my mom. It is very much in her style. It is very pink and blingy and sparkly, and that is exactly what she likes, particularly at Christmas. So I went ahead and added all of the white and all of the pink. I just lay one on top of the other, and then I'm going in with my final colour, and this is a silver with a hint of holographic, so it's got some sparkle and shine, and I just went right round that, adding in the extra pieces. Now, I believe you can actually buy these with the pipe cleaners pre-attached, but I couldn't see those, so I just picked up a regular wreath form and added the pipe cleaners. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 around each section of the wreath, and it really filled out. I think it looks great. It's so very full. I also picked up a pack of pink and silver baubles, and I'm adding those into the wreath in some places just to kind of help it hold its shape and keep its kind of fluffiness, and in some places right in the top so you can see them. So I also grabbed these really large jingle bells and added those with cable ties. I actually mean cable ties this time, it's not a slip of the tongue. I added those in with cable ties, and then I'd also picked up this inexpensive battery operated pack of bell lights. These ones don't make a noise, but they do light up. So we've got the noise from the jingle bells, and then we've got the light from this pack of lights, and I just cable tied the battery pack to the back. So this wreath took about 2 hours. It wasn't too expensive. You can pick up the deco mesh relatively inexpensively, and the baubles and the bells and the lights I all got really inexpensively online as well. And then we have the third type. So this is a ribbon wreath. Here I used cable ties for the whole thing, and I've got 2 types of ribbon and I've laid them one on top of the other. I think maybe this would have worked better with 3, but I happen to have these 2 ribbons in my stash anyway. They are wired ribbon, which will definitely work better for this type of wreath. And you want to just work from the outside in, or at least that's what I did here. I'm certainly no expert. This was my first time trying it. And I created 5 ribbon loops per section of the wreath. So I've got 1, then I'll do another one. Sometimes I had to grab some tweezers to help me poke those cable ties through. And then when I get to that 5th one, I moved it into the next section. So it kind of went over the bar. I trimmed away any of the excess of the cables, and then it was just time to kind of preen everything. So to pull apart those 2 ribbons, so instead of them laying one on top of each other, they actually kind of fluff out, and that helps the wreath kind of fill out also. and I just made sure to kind of twist them into the position that I wanted them, and the wire helps them hold their place. So then finally I have a string of lights. These again were really inexpensive, and I think they just add just that little something extra to be able to light up the wreath. And I just pressed those into the ribbon. I actually didn't attach them with any glue. I just attached the battery pack on the back with some more cable ties, but the ribbons were kind of so full and so fluffy that I could just press those wire lights in between the ribbon folds and it would hold in place. Okay, so that is the third wreath, which is for my sister-in-law, finished up. This one definitely cost me the least because I had the ribbon already. The lights were very inexpensive, and the wreath forms actually came in a 2-pack, so bonus. So let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite, whether you like the more natural wreath I made for myself, the really kind of blingy and pink wreath for my mom, or this final wreath, the ribbon wreath for my sister-in-law.